SHK Elul, Happy Birthday World, Atavshin Sameches, Parshas Tetzaveh.
No, action.
So turning this week's Parsha, Parsha Tetzaveh, we're turning to chapter Lamed, Pasuk Yud Aleph. This is well known. This is the famous inverted commas Pasuk, on which the Alter Rebbe based Sefer Tanya, that he brings in the Shah Blat, in the beginning page, the opening page of the Sefer Tanya. So I thought, being as it is the Yom Sheh, according to Rabbi Eliezer, it's the Yom Sheh Nivra Boi Ha'olam, Kofei Bel is the day that Nivra Boi Ha'olam. Let me just move along just a little bit. That's Yom Sheh Nivra Boi Ha'olam. If you prefer to after Kofei Elul, starts off the Seder for the whole Bria, so that today being Kofei Elul, that's the Yom Rishon of the Ma'aser Bereshis. But Kofov Elul is the Yom Sheni of the Ma'aser Bereshis, second day. And it's put down in the Sipurim that there were certain Hasidim that they used to keep like the whole Seder of the Bria from Kofei Elul up to Rosh Hashanah. They used to learn the whole section in the Torah talks about that particular day, and then they used to do other inyonim which were shy to that Yom, the Ma'aser Bereshis. They used to sort of keep all the days of the Ma'aser Bereshis up to Rosh Hashanah, which is Yom Vov, the Ma'aser Bereshis. As we're learning in the Maimon, we learn in the Chassidus and the Shurei Chassidus. So therefore I thought it was, seeing it as it is, that in Pnimis, our Torah, the Tanya is the Chumash. It's the Chumash of the whole Torah Kiyadua, and Mefursim by the Chassidim, that the whole Torah of Pnimis Torah, it's Mefurish, Chassidus Chabad, is divided into Torah should be Ksav and Torah should be Al Peh, just like the general Torah is, and the Torah should be Ksav is the Tanya. And the other Maimorim from the Rabbeim, the Torah should be Al Peh. We've got a Bain in here which will bring us something similar to that. So therefore I thought that since the Chassidim used to learn on the first day of Ma'aser Bereshis, they used to learn in Yonim in the Torah, which was shy to the first day. Then this Pasuk is the first day, it's literally the opening of the whole Tanya, and it's the basis on which the Alter Rebbe based the whole Sefer Tanya. So therefore it's Ma'atim to the Inyan of the first day of Ma'aser Bereshis. So the Pasuk says, Ki ha-mitzvah hazois, for this mitzvah, Asher Anochi Mitzavcha Hayom, Moshe Rabbeinu says, that I'm commanding you this day, Lo nifleis hi, it's not wondrous or withdrawn from you. Lo nifleis hi mimcha, V'lo rechoika hi, and it's not distant. Lo vashomayim hi, it's not in the heavens. Leimer, that you should say, Mi ya'aleh lanu hashomayma, who should go up into the heavens, ve'yikocher lanu, and should take it for us, Yashmienu Isa, and he would be able to then tell us all about it. Yashmienu Isa, and then we would be able to do it. So it's not like that. You don't have to be concerned about that. It's not from the other side of the ocean. That you would be able to say, Mi yavo lano el eiver hayom. Who's going to go to the other side of the ocean? And he will take it for us. And he teaches us, tell us, and then we'll be able to do it. It's not like that. What is here the case? The whole matter is very close to you. It's very close to you, in your mouth, in your heart, literally, in order that you should do it. So it's 100, the Alter Rebbe, right on the Shablat of Tanya, announces that this Sefer, the Kuti Amorim, has been written in order to explain to you the pasuk Ki Korev Alecha Hador Ma'id, or that final I think we just read, Beficha Bevocha La'asei. And the Alter Rebbe says, Levaya, to explain Eichi Korev, how is it near? B'derech Arucha Uktzora, in the Harichot, the long and the short way. I mean, you're all familiar with the Shablat of the Tanya. That's all. That's what he says. That's the purpose of the whole Sefer, is to explain to you that pasuk. But obviously, the Alter Rebbe has a problem in Cain, that how is it near? How is it near to you? And he says, I realize that you have that problem, and I'm going to explain to you how it is near to you, the derech harucha uktzora, in a long and a short way. Sure. Those are the ganze Tanya. He says that's the purpose and the aim of the whole time. So obviously there's some question which is hidden in the words of the pasuk, which demands an explanation, and it's the basis of the Yiddishkeit as the Alter Rebbe sees it, and it becomes the Sefer HaTanya, which is the Chumash of the whole Torah Siddur and the whole Pnimis HaTorah. So the intelligent reader immediately becomes Mesoyer. What's the problem with that pasuk that needs such a tremendous explanation? And also, what is the pirush, and what is the pshat of the words that he's come to explain it to me, b'derech harucha uktzora, in a long and a short way? I mean, there's no such thing as stum metaphors by the Alter Rebbe. It doesn't. I mean, in metaphorical language, you can say this is the long and the short of it. Yeah? In other words, I've covered it from all sides, etc. The Alter Rebbe is not playing with any metaphors. If he says that he came to explain it, b'derech harucha uktzora, then that means that is an essential need, an essential necessity in the pshat of the inyan, in order that you come to understand what he wants with the ganze Sefer HaTanya. So that's sort of shaila on the part of the intelligent reader. All of a sudden, in the middle of nowhere, we've just been through all sorts of inyanim, and the whole Mishnah Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu has repeated the whole Torah for all the Yidden. All sorts of amazing warnings have been given, and arousals on the part of Moshe Rabbeinu to keeping the Torah. Last week's parsha, we went through the whole inyan of the teichacha, how they call it, the so-called in inverted commas curses if you won't keep the Torah. And all of a sudden the pasuk starts off, ki hamitzvah hazois asher anochi mitzav chayim lo niflei. It's not wondrous from you, and it's not distant. So I saw the show. What on earth does the Torah want? What did Moshe Rabbeinu want with those psukim? I mean, who would have thought that it is nifleis? Who would have thought that it is rechoika? And then he has to explain it's not Reich, it's not Nifleis, it's Korev Elocha Dov Me'id, and in three ways it's Korev, Beficha, and Bilvavcha, and Leah, La Seisei. And in the middle, David suggests a whole dialogue that the mensch may have with himself, and he might say, well, look, this Torah is really in the heavens, and who's going to bring it down from the heavens, and who's going to teach me it, that I should be able to, who's going to yash me I should be able to do it. And maybe it's on the other side of the ocean, and who's going to bring it for me? What's this whole inner dialogue with the mensch? It goes into a whole discussion with himself that maybe it's in the heavens. What is it touching in the heavens? So a lot of the Mephoshim say it means the okeanos, the Yam HaGodel, because it obviously means something tremendously, almost impossible, that a man should be able to do that, because it was just an ordinary sea, like the Red Sea, or even the Mediterranean Sea. You can't get over that. It's not all that tremendously. Me'evel Yam obviously means something unattainable by the mensch pinkt as the heavens is, as it were, unattainable. And there's a whole dialogue within the mensch. Who's going to bring it and teach it to me? So they said, no, that's not. Don't think that way. It's very, very close to you. Not in the heavens, not me on the other side of the oceanus. Hagodil. It's very close to you in the three ways we just saw. What all in the middle of, and then immediately after that Moshe Rabbeinu goes back to the style that the whole Pasha was taking. The whole studium of the way that Moshe Rabbeinu is warning the Yidden and preparing them and so on and so forth. In the middle of this whole thing, ki a mitzvah hazeh. Ask the Shiloh, what mitzvah? Welche mitzvah it was? Ki a mitzvah hazeh. What's a mitzvah? And it said, that I'm giving you today. It's not wondrous. It's not distant. Who would have thought it is? Where is it? And in addition to that, or as a hemshah to that, some of the great Mephoshim, and we can suggest that there's no reason to assume otherwise, that that's the pshat, and particularly that it appears that that's what Rashi learns also. That they say that it's like two sections. First of all, Moshe warns us that the mitzvah that he's giving us is not wondrous. And so the word nifleis, wondrous, means elevatedly hidden, as you might say, something that's beyond your reach, and it's not distant. So the other two inyanim are like a beer, loy v'shomayim hi, that you might have thought it is, and what are you going to do? But that would be like a beer on deflate. It's not wondrous. In other words, what would be a picture and a way of imagining to yourself that it is wondrous if it was in the heavens? And then the next statement, it's not over the other side of the ocean. That's like a beer in the idea that maybe it's distant. And he said, no, loy mechusa. I'm sorry, loy nifleis, v'loy rachoika. So b'shamayim is a beer on nifleis, and me'evel is a beer on rachok, on distant. And then he sums it up, as we saw with the statement, so comes along Rashi. Rashi comments, he doesn't go into the question, what does it mean, ki a mitzvah hazois? Rashi just assumes that you know what that is. Ki a mitzvah hazois, this mitzvah, I'm telling you. So he says, Loi nifleisi mimcha, loi mechuseh. So as he says that the word nifleis and beklal niflo or pele in Loshen Kodesh are based on the concept of something hidden. K'may shenema ki yipolei mimcha dovo. That was in Parsha Shoftim. It was written that something would be wondrous to you in the halachas of the Torah and you didn't know how to work it out, then you should go up to the Beis HaMikdash and ask the Kohanim. Remember at the beginning of Parshas Shoftim? So it's written over there in the Targum Yonasan, that in the Targum Onkelos, where he says, Arei Yishchasi, behold, if something will be covered from you, if something will be hidden. So we see clearly that the word Pele means hidden, something which is wondrous is concealed and hidden from you. And therefore you call it a Pele, you can't really grasp or make it clear. And then he brings another pasuk from the Eicha, Vateired Ploim, but that's the other way around. Ki Pole means something that's like higher from you in the world of understanding of spirituality or the understanding of the halachas of the Torah, and it's hidden from you. He said another possibility can be that if Cholila there's a Yerida, Vateired Ploim, it's written in the Eicha that Yerushalayim and the Knesset Yisrael, they fell down into the depths, they Vateired Ploim, that they went down into a great depths, and therefore Rashi says b'matmanias, that means like in the hidden pits or the hidden, how do you call it, the hiding places of the earth. So therefore so Rashi says mechusa, which means chavusha bitmain, that somebody or bitimain, somebody is or the Knesset Yisrael or the hidden in general are hidden or prisoned in like a pit or a hole at the bottom, Vateired Ploim. So we see then that the word Pele can mean something which is covered. Now I'm not going, that's another matter for discussion. Why does Rashi take it in like two almost vertical extremities? And he makes one ki yechase in a form that would be hidden from you in highness, or another possibility that can be hidden from you because it's so deep in the earth. We won't go into that. But anyway, something which is concealed is nifleis. And then Rashi goes on to say, Loi b'shomayim hi, it's not in the heavens. Shi'ilu ho'eso b'shomayim, if it would have been in the heavens, ho'isa tzorik la'alois achreya, then he would have had to go up to the heavens, u'lelondo, and to learn it. So everybody is quite amazed by that Rashi, because the pasuk says that what would be your worry, that if it was in heaven, then you would say, who could possibly go up and bring it down for me and teach me, and I should be able to do it. Rashi avoids all that, and he just says, no, your problem with it being in heaven is that if it would be in heaven, then you would have to go up and learn it and bring it down for yourself and teach yourself how to do it. In other words, Rashi avoids the whole image in the middle of who would go up and get it for us. It seems that the problem by the mensch would be that if it was in the heavens, he would have to have somebody to go up to the heavens who would bring it down for him. That's what he says, Mi ya'alenu shamayma. Rashi avoids all that, and he just says, no, if it was in heaven, you would have to go up and learn it into heaven. And so we have to assume that that's what he says about the next part, about me'evala, but he doesn't even go into that. So we just have to assume it's the same pattern. So many other Meforshim will deal with that. The truth is, and not here is a place to go in to the whole discussion and the whole Riches. Our view what the great Meforshim said, Rashi does mean a shliach, but he doesn't. They get rather complex in the whole matter. So it seems to me that we could answer in quite a simple way. And we should suggest, I'm just saying by way of possibility, that we could suggest that Rashi learns that the whole section here is talking about the individual, and not talking about people who would go and teach him or bring him the Torah, or his own problem, as you might say, with the challenge that the Torah presents him. And we'll soon see in a minute that it is a challenge. And the far, that's a rhetorical question. Well, that in the middle, where it's written, Mi ya'alenu lanu shamayma, is Rashi learns that that's what's called a rhetorical question. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression. Not it means a real question. It's like promoting a question in one's mind without really without really meaning it. In other words, you don't have to look at the Torah in such a way that you would say to yourself, well, if it's in the heavens, who's going to reach the heavens? And who could possibly bring it down for us? Meaning that not we mean b'poil mamish that that's your only concern. Your concern is who's going to get it, meaning including you. Edifar, the whole piece in the middle about mi ya'alenu is a question, but it's what you call a rhetorical or theoretical question. It's not a question of Maisa. I would have to look for somebody to go up for me to heaven. Nor meaning the pashta is that how on earth would we get there to learn it? Meaning that you would have to go there and learn it yourself. So it's not that a mensch would be looking around for shluchim to teach him the Torah. He knows very well that he's got to learn the Torah. If it's in heaven, he would have to go after with a rhetorical question: how am I going to do that? Who's going to be able to do that? And who can achieve that? Ki, and so the summing up of the whole problem is Ki korev elecha adova me'ed. And the words Ki korev elecha, says Rashi, HaTorah nitno lechem biksav. The Torah was given to you in writing, ubal peh, and the oral Torah. Hadikah was given to you in writing and orally. So it's that's one of the really challenging Rashis in the Torah, where people sort of stop for a minute and they really gaze at this Rashi, what's he want with that? Ki korev elecha, if we were hoping for some tremendous biur, what does it mean? Really, the Torah is near. You don't have to worry about all these tremendous aliyahs into the heaven or to the other side of the sea, encouraging us to know that everything is ready. What are you going to do? And then Rashi just says, HaTorah nitna lachem biksavu bal peh. And since that's the biur, korev elecha, it's also koilul the other inyanim befichu bewavchale la'asveisei. They, as it were, come out and derive out of the fact that it's given to you. Yeah, biksavu bal peh. What is the Maila B'zeh? Well, that's what he gave me Torah Shebiksav, and then he gave me Torah Shebe'al, the oral Torah, also from Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's come down to us through the, like it's brought down in Pirkei Avos, with the Nevi'im and the Chachomim, etc. It came down through all the generations. How does that answer the whole problem, and how does that sum up everything that you don't have any concern anymore? It's no longer niflei, it's no longer rochike, it's no longer b'shamayim, it's no longer b'evel hayam, because it was given to you in two ifan. It was given to you b'ksav ubal peh. So shortly we'll come back to the biur. We'll have to leave you in suspense for a minute. We'll have to come back for a minute to that Rashi, and we'll sum it up more and deal with what maybe is the hidden point and the hidden message inside that Rashi. Suffice it to say that the question still remains in our minds: what is that all doing here in the middle? So we have to say, Derech Agav, we see that when Rashi said the expression HaTorah nitno lechem biksav ubal peh, we have to assume that Rashi is revealing that when it was written Ki HaMitzvah Hazois, that Rashi learns that's referring to the Torah in general, right? Torah nitno lechem biksav ubal peh. In other words, that when we said Ki korev, that HaMitzvah Hazois, or this mitzvah, loy rochoike, loy me'eva hayam, we're talking about the whole Torah. Now, to accept what might be another suggestion. Because a lot of people are concerned by that expression, HaMitzvah Hazois, which makes it look as if we're talking about a specific inyan, not necessarily the whole of Yiddishkeit and the whole of Torah. But the whole of Torah and the whole of mitzvahs, to call them HaMitzvah Hazois, is unusual, and it's as it were misleading slightly to refer to the whole Torah and everything that comes out of it, and we can't say it's only referring to the Torah, we have to say it's referring to mitzvahs also, because the whole pasuk indicates each time that the person who would have this dialogue with himself, he's concerned with how's he going to do it. V'na'asena, we've got to get it into Maisa, and the pasuk completes itself with the expression Bifichu bilvav chala asoi. So they were worried about people that want to keep the Torah, they want to do it, b'poya and be'asiyah. You can't say that the inyan of a mitzvah hazois is only referring to one mitzvah. If Rashi learns that it's talking about the whole Torah, then we have to say that what was the mila of Torah should be ksav and Torah should be al peh, that it's done so thoroughly that you will know exactly what you have to do. That's what we have to assume is the mila of biksav and baal peh. However, Rashi reveals we're talking about the whole Torah. And all of a sudden we've come into another general statement about all the Torah and Nashmiyan of a Naasena, the whole of the mitzvah. Because there are other great Rishonim, the Ramban at the head of them, and then the Soporno and many other great early period commentators. They learn that this whole little passage is referring to the previous passage which was just completed. I don't know if any of you guys have done your chitzas today, but anyway, if you have, then you'll have realized that the previous passage talks about the mitzvah of tshuva. And here's what we have, according to all the great coders of the mitzvahs, and including the Rambam, according to most of the great authorities, and particularly the Rebbe Melech Mashiach, is of the opinion that the Rambam holds that tshuva is a mitzvah of its own right. We had a whole passage which told us that if Rahman in Islam, all of these things will fall on you, a lot of these curses and other inyanim have come upon you, and you've gone out into Rahman in Islam, which actually happened, into Golas, and all sorts of inyanim of that nature. All of a sudden, you will realize what's happening, and you will return to the Eivishter. In other words, the whole passage started with the word V'shav Hashem. V'shavtu ad Hashem Elokecha. You will return to the Eivishter your God. It was at the beginning of the previous section, and then it's written as a result of that, V'shav Hashem Elokecha esh fuscha, that the Eivishter will bring you back from the God. Like the Rambam, the famous piece in the Rambam at the end of Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, but the Rambam writes over there that if you didn't do tshuva, then miyad heim nigolin, immediately they will be redeemed. And the Rambam uses the expression hivticha Torah, that the Torah promised us she Yisrael oisim tshuva, that if Yidden will do tshuva, miyad heim nigolin, and he brings these psukim to back him up. In other words, we see there's a inyan that you're going to be aroused and given the possibility, and you will do it of doing teshuvah, and that inyan of doing teshuvah will help so much that the Eivishter Kaviyachol will do teshuvah l'gabi your matzah, and he will bring you back from the Golos, even if you've been cast out in the Dacho Biktei Hashamayim, into the most distant places, who knows where. And unfortunately that's also happened. Tshuva is then the answer to the Golos Lefizeh. So therefore the Ramban learns that Behemshech to that old passage was talking about the mitzvah of Tshuva and the results and the wondrous things that Tshuva can bring. The Torah starts off and it says Ki ha-mitzvah azois, meaning Tshuva. It's not wondrous. The inyan of tshuva is koreh. And so the Ramban explains himself, why would you need a whole passage to encourage you that tshuva is not nifleis, it's not rafika, it's not me shamayim, and not me evalayam, it's koreh v'lechadov ma'id. Because, Aleph, the whole concept of tshuva is an amazing thing. And had it not been written in the Torah, then we would never have been able to know that such a thing as tshuva would help. That a man can come along and say 50 times, look, I'm sorry I did this, but he did it. And if we see that even in dinim of Bezdin, where a mensch is mechuyev a certain punishment, it doesn't help in the Bezdin for him to say, oh look, I'm terribly sorry, I did that. Somebody's chayev a certain punishment in Bezdin, he can shrey in front of the Bezdin 50 times that he's very sorry and he's done tshuva, and the Bezdin is going to have to carry out the dinim of the Torah. And the same with Nezikin, if you're chayev moment, you shouldn't scratch your head like that during learning. You know that you have to wash your hands. I'll free you from doing that, but when you scratch your head, then you have to wash your hands. It's but for the sake of being mamshik with learning, then I'll free you from doing that. Okay. Okay. So, but you should know that, by the way, if you guys are not familiar, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. If you scratch your head, you have to wash your hand. Wash your hand. It's so the whole concept of tshuva is a wondrous thing, because the Eibush is the king of the whole world, and everything is totally in the Eibush of the whole regular. All of a sudden you come along, your whole Matthias is only the Eibush, and you do the opposite of what he said. And it's a very serious matter. If you come along in front of a king, boss of a dog, and I did just had to go and wave him off, and right in front of him you do exactly the haypuck of everything he says. And what does the king do? Yeah, out of here and there are even stories in the Gemara about it. About kings they took things not properly, not nicely, and in a far ask yourself the shaila, how is it possible when I get to the life of a human in the light of the emes al pi Torah and the whole inyan of al pi Torah, our relationship to the Eibush, he's the melech ha'olam, mamish kipshutei. Keep pushing. How does a child to do tshuva? What is it? He come along and say, look, I'm sorry, I didn't really mean it, etc. etc. You didn't mean it. You should have thought about that. But you did it, and you've been how do you call it, poigim in the COVID hamela. I'm happy that you're sorry, but this is a lo shaya. In the whole inyan for Torah is the whole inyan for tshuva, is an amazing chiddush, and it's an unbelievable chesed what the Eibush did, that he gave us the ability to do tshuva, to go back. Well, the simple inyan for tshuva means to be sorry about what you did, and to say you want to come back to the Eibush. Come over and he goes tshuva from the altar, like he writes over there. Shat mitzvah tshuva min ha-Torah. The altar brings over the Mefurim. And in addition to that, that's one inyan. The second inyan was the inyan of mitzvah tshuva be'inyan zeh, says the Ramban, is a chiddush tova, because it's talking to the Yidden that have been never, because of their sin, that the Eibush Einach Hanami left them alive, but he drove them into Golas. That when a person's in Golas and he's in Eretz Ha'amim, he's in all the tzores, all these inyanim which are likely to come, Rachmon in Nitzlan, how is he going to have the koyach, and how is he going to have the ability, and who knows if his tshuva is really an emes tshuva, or maybe he's just trying to look good in order that she be able to get the Golas, me'al tzavora over the whole, arichas, hadvarim that we could suspect maybe Aleph it's not an emes tshuva, and maybe the whole motivation is not an emes motivation, etc., etc. And the Fazal Ramban, we need to be told and we need to be encouraged a whole inyan about mitzvah tshuva in the light of those two eyebrow-raising problems that the man says, tshuva, what on earth can that help? What does it mean? And what is it shaykh in our matter? How could we possibly do teshuva? What's it a problem? It really bothers you enough, so you do teshuva. But a mensch can say he doesn't have any koyach. Person hat nicht viel koyach mehr zu tun tshuva in the God. And that's the matter we're holding high here. You look around at the Klal Yisrael, you see the person mentioned, Ein lam yoter koyach. And the far we see that the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, in all the latest siches in Toshin Nun Beis, and Toshin Nun Aleph, and Toshin Nun Efila, we don't see any reference to the Inyan Shur. It's all Inyanim about the Gula and about being waited people to see the Gula, to go into the Gula. You have to say Kol Rega V'Rega, yeah, that the Gula is here, we want the Gula. But the Inyan Shur, you don't find that whole emphasis. Because the Rebbe knew that we're running into such areas where Shul is going to be very difficult. People are so, what you might call, weary from the unbelievable Helen V'Esther to go. And the Ramban says that the whole Inyan of Tshuva in this in is a Chiddush Gadol. That people should be able to do tshuva, apple people in the Golas, and it should help, and the Avish said, yes, I'll listen to the voice of your tshuva, and I'll take you out of the Golas, v'chule. And that doesn't, so they said somebody had to do tshuva sometime. So the Rebbe said, and even the Friedrich Rebbe, I mean, don't have to, in inverted commas, blame the Rebbe. The Friedrich Rebbe said it. The Friedrich Rebbe said that people have already done tshuva. And the Rebbe broadened that whole concept. And he said that the whole Klal Yisrael have even done tshuva. Everybody looks around and says, where's all the tshuva? Where's all these Bali Teshivas? Where are they? So the Rebbe answered that the tshuva that the Avis is looking for in the last moments prior to the Etzem Miskalas of the Geula, he should sigh. And that's what the Friedrich Rebbe said. If he just sighed inside himself, he said, oh, maybe I should be different. Maybe that's only a tshuva gedola. K'movur v'divrei Rebbe Rayatz bekama mekaymis and v'divrei Rebbe Melech HaMashiach bahar v'mekaymis. V'sein kanamochim laharich v'b'kol ha'inyan hazeh. It's that the fathers of the Ramban, that the pasuk ki a mitzvah hazois in Lashon Yochid is referring to the mitzvah tshuva. That's a hemshah from the previous thing. And he will say tshuva can help, like having the Melech HaOlam, a tshuva, how we're in the Golas, how are we going to do tshuva? And therefore he says, no, you shouldn't think that it's nifleis. You shouldn't think it's wondrous, and you shouldn't think it's distant, and you shouldn't think it's like me'evel yam v'ka'itza b'zeh. You have to know that Koreh v'lecha adovah ma'oid and takya k'divrei Rebbe Rayatz. It's enough of it. He goes, and he gives a deep Yiddish sigh, as he calls it over there, the Yiddish chrechts, the deep of a Yid, the deep sigh of a Yid is a sign that only a Yid can sigh that way. In other words, that when he sighs, he means not only just his physical situation, he means the whole ruchniistic situation that a Yid can be. And the Pharisee said the pasuk ki koreh v'lecha adovah ma'oid, it comes to arouse you and to give you the encouragement for mitzvahs tshuva, that you can do tshuva. It's accepted by the Eivishter, and even in the Golas it's possible to do tshuva, even in all the difficulties and the limitations and the tzoros, it's possible to do tshuva. That's Divrei Ramban, v'asapon v'od havim ha'mefos. However, in Rashi, as we pointed out, it doesn't appear to be that Rashi learns that pshat. And it would appear that Rashi learns that we're talking about the klolos ha'toiro, and more than mizeh, that we're talking about the klolos ha'mitzvahs as well, because the whole pasuk talks about the leah. So is it, doesn't it? I appreciate your artistic tendencies, but I don't want them during a class, okay? Just imagine if you were giving a class and somebody was doing an artistic drawing. Just imagine how you would feel about it. Okay. So, Rashi says that we're talking about klolos hayadus, Torah and mitzvahs. Yesh lema the beers azay. When you take a look at the whole Torah, it's, you know, how do you call it? It's what you might call a hefty task. It's just a glance at the closing of the Torah. And right now we come towards the end of the Torah. These are the people who are going over into Eretz Yisrael. They're moving from the ideal situation of the desert into the whole challenge of setting up Eretz Yisrael in a way that it was meant al pi Torah, mamish kipshute b'elam hakashmi, to build a country. There has to be the whole union of sowing the ground and working and having the whole union of a civilization. A whole new people is going to move into a country. Like we see that we're told that David's not going to move you in at one go, because if he did, then the whole Chayas HaSoda and everything would be just ruined. If it all happened in one immense bang, then you were supposed to be moving into a country to set it up. You've got to move into a rich country and then get moving. It was an amazing statement of a Rashi in one of the Pesukim in Yeshaya, it's brought down. But Rashi says over there that one of the reasons why they used to trade around the Yidden 40 years in the desert was in order that some of the Emorim and some of the Canaanim and others, when they heard that the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim, they thought, wow, these Yidden are coming for us. So they decided to mess up a lot of the country. They tried to cut down trees and do other things. Or when they heard that the Yidden would be nailed up in the desert, so they said, oh, you know, they're dragging around in the desert, they're not going to make it in here anymore. Who's going to be able to hold out 40 years in that desert? So therefore they let everything grow back again. So by the time the Yidden came into the country, it was already quite a flourishing country. Bein v'gashmis u'baruchni zo'id hapa. But I would have thought that might cause a slight surprise by certain members of this community, being as it is a Dvar Pele, Rashi. So, here we are at the end of the Torah. People are about to go across into Eretz Yisrael, and they've seen this amazing Indian, which is called the Torah. And then all of a sudden they've heard from Moshe Rabbeinu all these tremendous threats that if you don't, how do you call it, if you step out of line and look at what's likely to happen. You know, last week's Parsha, 98 curses, in inverted commas. K'muvin, they're all brachas, as well known. You know the story with the Alter Rebbe and the Middle Rebbe. You know the story. Everybody knows the story, I'm sure. You don't know the story? Yeah. So you have to ask later what was the story. In other words, the Alter Rebbe, when he read those inyonim, there was only heard all the brachas which are hidden in them, but they're pretty sobering when you're not on the Madrega, the Alter Rebbe, and you hear them. Or the Middle Rebbe got terribly sick when he woke up to what was really in the simple tight of those words. He got very ill. Meaning that, you know, there's a lot at stake, a tremendous amount at stake, and the Divrei Torah akesayra kahorarim atluyim b'sayra b'loshen haGemara. They're like mountains that they hang on hairs. So as long as you're on the hair, you're all right. If not, the mountain is like to fall on top of you, like it's brought down. You're going to get to Matan Torah that the Abish was kofa aleim har kigigis. He put a mountain over them like a barrel. He took up the whole mountain there. He lifted it up and held it over their heads. And he said, if you keep the Torah, it's good. If not, try. I mean, you're familiar with the whole Maimon Chazal, the whole beer. You know, the Alter Rebbe's got a Torah over there, an amazing beer bazeh. It's put down in the Divrei HaRabbeim. There's a tremendous amount involved. It's a tremendously sensitive, serious undertaking and deal with the Jewish people, this whole union of the Torah. And a mensch, a Yid, you know, he comes, he's heard all that now, he's got to go over to he's from the generation, it's fallen to their lot, they've got to go over into the Yahweh, and they've got to undertake this unbelievable business of Elam Hazeh, and the Shachar HaTorah. So you guys who are learning here, hear the word Shach, so you all jump up. So fortunately or unfortunately for you, it doesn't mean the same shach. The shach of Yerodei and of Chosh Mishpat, that's a Sifsei Kohen, which was written earlier than this shach I'm mentioning, and it's an unbelievable story about the life. You know something about the lifetime of the shach? You heard a bit about his lifetime. Well, you got a lot to learn. It's his Pirush al Chosh Mishpat, particularly, is even more amazing than his Pirush al Yerodei. Unbelievable, as he wrote that when he was in the kiyum of one of these unfortunate situations during terrible pogroms, and he was fleeing the whole time from place to place, and he lost one of the members of his family who was captured by the goyim, and a whole unbelievable man. And the Shach was writing all these unbelievable Pirushim, and he's flying, the arrows are flying overhead, and he's fleeing from the goyim, and he was writing all these unbelievable things. That's a famous story. Those are the Shach al Yerodei al Chosh Mishpat. There's another sefer called the Shach al HaTorah. And the Shach al HaTorah, he called his sefer the same name, Sifsei Kohen, and that's the Rosh Teva Shach. But he was a Talmid from the Talmidei Arizal. He was later in history, and he was a Makabel from the Talmidei Arizal. He lived in Tzfas, by the way, and he was very close to the time of the Arizal. And he wrote this biur, which is like a mixture of Pshat for Kabbalah, and the Alter Rebbe brings it in Likutei Torah. You can look him up. The Alter Rebbe brings it right at the beginning of Parsha Kedoshim in Likutei Torah. It's well known that the Alter Rebbe was very medactic to bring all sorts of personalities in his Sforim who were Talmidim of the Arizal or the Baal Shem Tov, who were saying Karamokim. If you look up in the Likutei Torah, and particularly in Tanya, it's unbelievable, even though he doesn't mention their names, even though he does in one or two places, he mentions all sorts of Torahs and protim from these amazing figures. So the Shach al HaTorah, he comes along, and he says that not only that, once you get over into Eretz Yisrael, what's going to be the Seder? Over there, you're going to have to live a gashmistic life. You're going to have to work for your parnasa. That's going to take a heck of a amount of time. A man's going to have to sow and do this and build up a civilization. He's got to live somewhere. In the desert, they live from the manna. The Hebrews not going to keep manna after you get into Eretz Yisrael. As soon as they got into Eretz Yisrael, it's written that immediately after the Pesach, after they arrived in Eretz Yisrael, then it's written, Vayechlu b'nei Yisrael, me'avu ha'eretz Canaan b'shon ha'hi. They already had to eat from the crops of Eretz Canaan b'shon ha'hi. For the rest of the year, they were already on the crops of the ground, even before they started conquering Eretz Yisrael. The man stopped it immediately after they came into Eretz Yisrael. And then the man's he's got to earn a parnasa. He's got to eat. He's got to sleep. He's got all sorts of other commitments. So I asked the Shaila, when is he actually going to devote himself to the Torah in such a way that he's going to be able to keep all this unbelievable commitment, what he's seen that Moshe Rabbeinu has put before them and explained to them as they're getting ready to go over the Yarden, and look at what's waiting for if Chas v'Sholom you don't. It's mind-boggling, all these, and here's the poor man, he's got all these requirements one after the other, and so in between all the lines, somewhere he's got to find a way to learn and to be devoted and to keep all the mitzvahs and this. So therefore the Shach says, a mensch looked at that, he falls into a wonder, how's all this going to be? How's all this going to be shayach? How's it going to be possible? And that's why we have to say that that's this passage. And before Moshe Rabbeinu goes on to finally summing up everything, which is the Shiras Hazinu, and what's mentioned briefly in next week's Parsha, certainly in Yonim, but that's like the final sign-off of all the Yonim, as they are in Torah Shebik Sav. And therefore the Torah writes in that a man's going to look at the close HaYiddishkeit, and he's going to say, wait a second, how am I going to manage that? And the Pfarrer comes again, Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, ha-mitzvah hazois, or this particular mitzvah, meaning summing up the whole limud HaTorah and all the mitzvahs together, that Yiddishkeit is like one Inyan. In other words, you are commanded. You are committed. You're not Aina Mitzvah V'Oisa. You're not just a nice, noble guy and a nice, noble leader that you didn't have to take on yourself, but you did, and you didn't. You have good intentions, v'chuli, but you are a commanded person. The whole of Yiddishkeit, no matter what it is, learning Torah or was on the time, mitzvah. That everything is a commandment where you are bound up as a mitzvah. And Bamela, the only Eita is Kabbalah Soil Malchus. You have to take on yourself the oil of the mitzvah, and you have to know that you're going to have a Eita. What the Tesis brings over there, but again, what's the mile of somebody who's commanded over somebody who's not commanded? Tesis says over there, immediately you're commanded, you get a little voice inside you that says, wait a minute, who said, what? In other words, the little Yetzirah pops up inside you and he says, oh, maybe you know, Mashiach, the guy who wants to do it, he's doing it out of his own self, then he doesn't have a Yetzirah. He probably does, but I mean, he doesn't have it in that particular way. Edifa, and the mensch is a mitzvah, the whole of Yiddishkeit is a mitzvah. Edifa, comes again, a Yid, and he can say, look, you're sending me over into Eretz Noshevah. You're sending me into the Avodah from Gashmias, and I'm going to have all those commitments that the Shachar HaTorah was masbir. And a ganze, pomp and splendor of founding a civilization, but a ganze Inyan, and you give me this huge Torah. I mean, this is unbelievable Dvarim, Ruchniim, and unbelievable Inyanim. How can I possibly be in that and be shy to that? And therefore you might say, Nifleisi, it's too high and too covered for a Gashmistic man. So you might say, well, don't be a Gashmistic man, be a hermit. Lock yourself in an ivory tower, and you just build a few ivory towers all around the Eretz Yisrael, and you strip a few thinkers, and the rest of them can just, find a way. So you can't do it that way. Everybody has got the same commitment. And therefore, he says, Nifleisi, it's too wondrous. And therefore Rashi said, Mechuse, it's too high, you can't really reach Azam Tzotzah. Or you might say, Rechoika, which is the same basic idea, but in another oiva. It's too far away from Ish HaMagusha B'toich HaGeshem, it's too far away. It's a Dor She'ein Koech B'yad Lahasiget. And Rashi says that that's your problem. You, as a Yid, as a part of the Klal Yisrael, you look at the whole situation and you say, Mechusahi Mimeni. In other words, Yesh Loimah, that the pshat of the pasuk is that heavens doesn't necessarily mean heavens. It doesn't mean the physical heavens up into the stratosphere or up into Mars or somewhere. It doesn't mean that. No, heavens means the concept of the world of the spiritual, which is beyond and higher than Olam Hazeh. And the Yid Tainas, that's Mechusa, it's hidden. It's secrets that we can't reach that far, we can't get that high. If you want us to have to do with the new civilization, to be leaders of the whole world, and that the whole world should be dependent on us, as he stated in all these pasukim. And the zweite pasuk is, and so the Rabbeinu Bechaya is married a huge ariches that the inim from Yam means the ocean, and he says that the inim with the ocean is that if you're in the middle of the ocean, you look down on the sea, it looks like some huge dark. It looks like, a huge part of darkness all in its own right. It doesn't look like water, it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like some huge mass, which represents almost like another world, another state of being altogether. And it is. If you look what goes on inside the sea, particularly in the deeper parts of the ocean, it's just unfathomable. Was it until and if I said the Rabbeinu Bechaye, that the Yam is symbolic of something dark and hidden and beyond your capacity. Just imagine if somebody dropped you out of a plane in the middle of the Pacific Ocean or the Atlantic. I mean, does it finish? I mean, the Mensch kann dort nicht durchhalten. He's not able to accept. In fact, it's not me'evel. So as is all the Shaila Takaviyah. How is it that it's not me'evel yam and it's not muchuse? Yeah, like Rashi says, and the me'evel yam involves the same basic concept, and that I shouldn't have this amazing rhetorical question: who's gonna bring it down for? In other words, how am I going to stand in such a nisoya, such a tet? In other words, an unbelievable dichotomy. I'm going to be in a oilam gashmi, and here you're talking to me this type of language, and you've got to be in that and holding by that. If not, look at all that's going to happen to you. If I'm in, it's an unbelievable nisoya for a man. So you might say, well, he's just looking for ways out. Oh no, he's not. This is the most honest cheshbon that a yid would make with himself. Mamish b'chadrei chadorim, room inside room. Like you might say, Krishma shalamita sheba Krishma shalamita. Mamish, when he's holding deep within himself, what's be'emes? Is he really thinking? And he says to the Eibishter, I know that Yashmiyena, somebody's got to show me the Nasena. Yeah, ultimately you want us to do all of this. It's not only enough. We have to learn it and know all about it. It's got to come down into mouths. If a man, in order that a man should be able to do something, mamish b'mais, he's got to know what can he do. How does he do it? What is the biur hadorah? And therefore, every day in business Kriyashma, and the blessing to the Kriyashma, we're praying to the Eivishter, we say that Slamdeinu, Lishma, Lilmaid, and what do we say at the end? The last. It's called Divri Talmud Torah. It's all got to come into Poel Mamish. Like the Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya, Beribui Makoima. He said, if you don't do it into the Torah, and like it's brought down in the Gemara in many places, and particularly in reference to Rebbe Chia, that Rebbe Chia spent a lot of his time running around killing deers and taking their skin and writing parshias of the Torah on the skin of the deer in order to teach little children in the Chadorim and other things that they should know about the Torah. And the Gemara says in Masechta Kesubos, the Gemara says that Gedolim Maasei Chio, that great are the deeds of Rebbe Chia. In other words, Chia by his name, that great are the deeds of Chia. In other words, ultimately speaking, that is the greatness. So therefore it says, look here, I want to know how to do it. How am I going to know how to do it? Because the equal limit is going to be in order to do it, but if it's hidden and it's achvais, how am I going to know? In other words, we could say that this is like the follow-up to what happened at Matan Torah. Because at Matan Torah, the Yidden were in the middle of the Midbar, they were in the most ideal situation, and they did the right thing. They said, Na'aseh Nishma, we'll do it and then we'll find out later. And what they meant to say was that we're going to be committed to Maisa, that's our ultimate commitment, and to hear it, Nishma is going to be just a necessity. Now when they're facing the actual deed, it's like the little guy that was in the town and he offered to go out and kill the dragon. He's a little nobody. There's this huge dragon that's threatening the whole city. And then when they actually put him over the wall, he says, well, Kifal, who am I? How am I? So the Yidden, they said, Na'aseh Nishma. They said, well, here we go, we're ready for Maisa, and Nishma is just going to be part of it. Over here they're ready to go over to the Yaz. They say, wait a minute, I need to know, how are we going to do it? And they said, Nashmiena v'nasena. Somebody's got to teach us that we should know how to do it. We're committed, and we know that the Diak is Maisa. We said to the Eish, we're committed unbelievably to Maisa. Maisa Kredum, Shmiya. Yeah, Nasa Kodem Lanishma. Or when it comes to Poyo, Nashmiyena, Vanasena, we have to first all know what to do. How the heck are we going to know? It's Mechuse and it's Muflay with the Ganze. Mit der ganze Dui. It's up in heaven, it's in the Elul Maruchni, it's an unbelievable commitment. And that was the whole Shaila. And it's like a rhetorical question, as we pointed out, Vikuach, the Adam, the Chish B'Shalom Mitter, B'Tei Chadrei Chadorim, it's a Vikuach of the Adam with himself. And Mamela with the Eibishter. And after comes again the Eivishter, and he says, Ki kore v'lecha. Because what does he have to tell you that the Torah is near to you? What does he have to tell you that for? My enough commitment. Obviously, he's not going to tell you to do something which is impossible, or, which is further from you, beyond your reach. It wasn't all chiddush. Ki kore v'lecha. And then we have to say that what we've just been masbeh, this is the chiddush. The chiddush is, how are we going to be gashmistic dimension and be in the spiritual world, in the higher spiritual world? How are we going to know? All we got to do with these 613 commandments, but that's only the mitzvahs how they are in our Torah. Or what about all the diktuki halachas and all the other inyanim? Yeah, it's brought down to ein mispah, that there's no number. Edafar, Rashi says, HaTorah nitna lachem biksav ubal peh. Edafar, says Rashi, the Torah went under 2 stages. In other words, it's not that the Eivishter gave the Torah and let the Malachim said to him, leave the Torah up here with us, we're spiritual beings, leave it with us. You remember the Gemara in the Shabbos taught, when Moshe Rabbeinu went up into the heavens, as it were, to receive the Torah, then the Malachim said to the Eivishter, what's this guy doing amongst us? What's this flesh and blood here? What's he doing up here? So the Eivishter said, he's come to get the Torah. And they said, Torah? Give Torah to us. What are you giving it down there? These little sort of boss of a domdicker guys down there on 2 feet, what are you doing? Give the Torah to us. And that's the whole thing we just explained. That's the dichotomy in the mind of the intelligent reader. What are you talking? Give the Torah. So therefore the Eivishter, the Rashi says that the Eivishter underwent 2 stages. First of all, the Eivishter brought down the Torah on Mount Sinai. He brought it down in a Za'ofen, didn't he? He brought it down in a Za'ofen. You have to listen to what's being said. He brought it down in a Za'ofen. The first of all, it became Biksav. But the difference between Ksav and even Dibur is that Ksav becomes a Matthias on a certain idiom which it remains unshakable and unchangeable for Ribu's Ma. In other words, when you bring something that you know about, and you can even talk about it, but you put it into writing, then that means that it becomes a Matthias Gashmi, and everybody can approach it, even those who didn't hear you, or they don't know what you're talking about. Uchaitza there. Yeah, Ksav is a Hagshoma of a much greater oifen than Dibur or anything else. In other words, when you put something into Ksav, it's available to everybody, and it's a Matthias Gashmi al Pnei Kol Hora. And that's well known. That's a famous deal, what some people make. That the first word of the first Maimah, the Rebbe Melech Mashiach, what he said, if you notice when he said on Yud Shvat, the very first Maimah, he says, Kosav, Yachved Kedushas Moiri V'chami, V'Maimah Yud Shvat. He begins with the word Kosav. He said, my father-in-law wrote, Kosav. So some of the Siddim are medactive. Why does he begin the first Maimah with the word Kosav? He wrote, referring to the Frierdiker Rebbe, because once you write something, that's a Hamchosha, you bring down the highest Indian into a Akshoma, and it's ink on paper, then it becomes the property of everybody, no matter who they are. They have the right, and it was given, because the Rebbeim gave everything for the whole Klal Yisrael. They didn't just give it for the chosen Hasidim. And that's the word Kosev. Mamela Torah Shebiksav means it's gone down from the Elul Maruchni, it's become a Matthias ala Klaf. That even there you might say, well, a Matthias on Klaf, how much can that be? I mean, like that. So the Torah is long and it's immense in size, but it's not enough to, as it were, embrace all the possible minute situations that might come into life. And therefore the Eivshter went a further step, and he took it down, and he said, hidden in all of those lines which are brought down in a form of Amchoshet, B'teich Achsav, I've made a biur which on every prat will explain it all and even make it developable and you might call appropriatable to each generation and to every detail in each generation, etc. So I might say, but you've gone from Ksav back into Dibur. I mean, Dibur is a more, what you might call, nebulous thing than what writing is. And therefore we see that the Inim from Torah Shebal Peh, Dafki went from generation to generation, and in every moment and every generation, in every moment of a Yid's life, there's somebody there that can be mavayim what's written in the Torah. In other words, that the Torah Shebal Peh means that it became the property of hundreds and thousands of chachomim, that their reading is to make it understandable and to be ready at every moment. And therefore it's brought down that even if an ordinary Yid passes away, brought down in the Zohar expression achlifu tuktayu, they switch their places. A little bit of sarcasm every now and then, it doesn't do any harm. Particularly I quoted you, I shouldn't say it. Yeah, anyway, it comes out of here that the Chachomim and the people who are in the position of Torah Shebal Peh, they are living entities of the Torah. Now that's a most amazing concept when you think about it. And therefore, it's put down an amazing ma'aseh in the Gemara Masechta Shabbos. Masechta Brachos. I could bring down several ma'aseh, but because we're running a bit short of time, and everybody's saying what he's saying, Ad Mos I'm going to get to this shir, not only going to get to the Eden from Mashiach. We have to cut it short, so we'll just tell one ma'aseh, even though we could have told maybe three, at least. And there's a ma'aseh right near the end of Masechta Brachos, but the Gemara brings a brayso there, and it tells that Pa'am Achas, Shimon ben Azai, Rebbe Shimon ben Azai, he wasn't called Rebbe, he was called ben Azai, it's well known, that he once followed Rabbi Akiva, who was his Rebbe, he followed Rabbi Akiva into the Beis he followed him into the Beis HaKisei. Yeah. So when they came out, the Chachamim said to him, Ben Azai, Ad Mosai ata meiz ponecha b'talmidei Chachamim. How are you going? Until when are you going to stop being cheeky and absolutely improper in the COVID of the Talmidei Chachamim? I had you do a thing like that. So he says, I'm sorry, you guys, you got it wrong. Toirohi v'lumaid ani charik. He said, when Rabbi Akiva goes into the toilet, he said, that's Torah. And he said, I have to learn Torah, so I have to go into the toilet with Rabbi Akiva to see what happens in there. As he stated in the Gemara, so I'm a foolish Gemara. Torah hiva little maid ani tzari. In other words, that even when Rabbi Akiva, went into the bathroom, that was Torah. As he stated in the Gemara. Torah hiva little maid ani tzari. And what do we see from that? That the greatest way that you learn is from personal example. In other words, you can learn to be Ksav. Ksav is already a gashmistic situation of ink on paper. You can learn a shir from somebody. Of a mamish, where do you learn? You learn from personal example. You see another Yid does a certain thing in a proper way that it should be, or that has a big ashpah on you, and you would like somehow or another also to act that way, and it brings out in you the deepest commitment, the deepest arouses, the deepest touching of the neshama more than anything else. At the Fazot, the Gemara, in many places, that Pliny said that he learned from Pliny because he saw it happen by him. And the Father Gemara says, in many places throughout Shas, that Maisa Ra, that greater than Maisa is nothing. In In other words, if we saw that happen by one of the Chachamim, then we can say that that's the halacha. Elohim Cain, he was from a school of Chachamim that we don't paskin according to them. In other words, like Beis Shammai, the Gemara says, Lav Davke, from Beis Shammai can we learn, because Beis Shammai, b'mokim Beis Hillel ain't a Mishnah. Sof kol sof, any of the other Chachamim, particularly Amoraim, that they were already the Poiskim. If they did something, that's Maisera. Ein yoter mizeh. That's what Rashi said. HaTorah nitla lechem biksav u'bial peh. Bial peh doesn't mean that they taught you something that wasn't written. What it means is that they are a living example of Meshach Kol HaTorah, that they're always there. The Baal Peh is always there, and you can not only learn from them, theoretically, as you might call shiurim and biurim, but you can also see on them what they do and know what is the halacha. L'man sefer the whole arichas habiu b'inyan zeh what yesh lahari v'zeh me'id v'zeh kind of mochim lahari mitzad the tzimtzum in the time. And that's yesh lema. What Rashi says, that's the answer to your problem, that the Torah has been given to you in different daragas and different inyonim, that the Eibush has brought it down into the Olam HaGashmi, and it's there, and it's a living example to you, and you can always turn meaning, that ain't a chanami. There will be people that will have to be busy, and that will be their tafkid, to be busy with the inyan civilization, b'miyuchad, that there have to be people, business people and other people and all sorts of peoples that will be busy with the Olam HaGashmi, but there will also be people and figures that they will be, kol inyanehem will be the inyan from Torah, and they will be, Torah should be out. They'll be a living example of the inyan from Torah. Is ein chanami. There will be people, and there have to be people who is kol inyanehem, will be only Torah. And that's what we see. The Gemara says about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai Chaveru, the Teirosom Umanosom, that their trade and their task in bringing Parnasa to the world is Torah. That their whole inyan is only Torah. And rare are such people, but there are such people, and the inyan from them will be a gilui as to how, not only how the Torah is in Shomayim, but how the Torah is mamish lamata ba'or. And that's what Rashi is masbir, that this whole inyan is like the hesitation on the part of the person who wants to know. Now, after he's committed himself to Maisa, and he said that Matan Torah Nasa v'nishma, but now he wants Nashmienu v'nasena. I got to learn, I got to know how am I going to do it all. And then at the end, before they go into Eretz Yisrael, all of a sudden, after all these amazing statements and warnings and things that Mamish Marid demands, they cause him to shudder, at the tremendous commitment. There comes along the Torah and puts in a whole piece. What the Rebbe says that is the basis of Yiddishkeit. This whole inyan is the basis of Yiddishkeit. And tefah, a mensch, has to say to himself, it's because it's nitten b'ksavu Baal Peh, that there's always going to be the Torah brought down to you, mamish b'toich achayim shulcha, ink on paper, and even more than that, human beings that they're going to be the etzem Torah, they are going to be Levitic Torahs. And therefore, had he called him Ben Azai said about Rabbi Akiva that everything he does is Torah. Also said to comes along the altar of it. So him came, what's the Chiddush from the Tanya? What's the Chiddush from the Tanya? Comes again the altar Rebbe, and he said, Emes, all that is 100%. Baruch Hashem, as the world went along, and as the Torah came down from generation to generation, so there were new, what you might call, stimuli were put into the Jewish people because of the tremendous pressures of the Golas. So there occurred a whole new stimulus which was called the Baal Shem Tov. It was the one on the famous Sholem in reference to that and so on. There's occurred this unbelievable giving of Torah Shabbal down into such a way that it's become the gilui of the Etzem Neshama of the Torah Shmosa Teiraisa. And you've got amazing human examples. You've got the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid and the Talmidim Maggid is well known in the what do you call them, the acknowledgements that the Alter Rebbe got for the Sefer at the beginning. He mentions also to Rosh Tevus and other inyanim which are indicatory that he's referring to the Baal Shem Tov, to the Maggid, and to all of them. In other words, that the Alter Rebbe is pointing out that those living Torah Shebaal Peh are already there in the Inyan of Chassidus also, and they're a whole new stage of the Gilui of the Torah Shebaal Peh. When I get to the new necessity before Mashiach to reveal everything in the Torah, even the hidden aspects of the Torah, even the pnimis of the Torah. However, the Alter Rebbe says there's one thing that, as it were, bothers him in the whole Inyan, that it's Korev Elecha Adover Ma'id. If it would have been just written, it's Korev Elecha Beficha La'aseisei. So the Alter Rebbe said that he wouldn't have had any shaila. But Beficha means to talk about it, La'aseisei means to do it. That's something in the hands of everybody. But Bilvavcha means that your heart has got to be full of it. It's got to be in your heart. In other words, you've got to do things out of love of Hashem and fear of Him in the way that your whole heart, Livavcha, means that even the other part of the heart, the left ventricle, is also going to be captured and full of recognition and sense of Hashem. In other words, Ava and Yira. So the Alter Rebbe says, wait a minute. Maybe right at the beginning when the Torah, people had this unbelievable Ava of Hashem, maybe in the time of the Beis HaMikdash when it was unbelievable Gilui. Or what about our generations as we've gone down? Einoch Hanami Torah Nitna B'Iksavu Baal Peh Emes of a Bilvavcha. How are we able in our generation? How are we able to keep Bilvavcha? How are we able to live mamish with the brain of Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem? It's not Korev. It's lacking in the Korev. Korev Elecha. The whole Korev Elecha is Beficha uBilvavcha. La says, Oisa, that you have to have the Bilvavcha, otherwise you're not keeping the La says in the way that it's supposed to be. In other words, like the whole first part of Tanya explains us that if you do the mitzvahs ba'av over year, then they're called mitzvahs. If not, they're not called mitzvahs. They bring the B'Shem Hazarka. And the man's going to just be left without the whole Ikea. He's going to be doing everything. He's going to be like a bit of a robo or a weed or something. He's not really doing it, but they're going to say in a brain of Ava V'Yira, mainly in the Friedrich generation. And therefore, Perik Yud Zayin, when he asks that child, the Alter Rebbe puts in brackets, but Torah he nitzchiyah. You can't tell me, oh yes, that part of the pasuk was only for the generations in the earlier times when it was possible to have emes ha'ava. But nowadays, just forget the lavavcha part of it. Just go befichul asay. The Alter Rebbe says, you can't do that. The Torah is nitzchiyah. They stated in two little brackets there in Perik Yud Zayin. So Kushia Alimta, it's an amazing kasha what the Alter Rebbe had. And on that, he saw it was necessary to write the whole Ganzana Tanya in order to explain how it's really Korev Elecha, and the Ikar Shaila is that he's got a house that built Vavcha, how is it Shayak, that you should be able to do things with Emes Avos Hashem and Emes Yiras Hashem. Are you just a schlepper? You're not a tzaddik. And my mother, since you're not a tzaddik, is all the time, you get all these nudgenishin. How do you call this tremendous nudgerai that goes on from the Yetzer Hara and the Nefesh HaBa'amiyah. And you always, I say, you know very well where you hold, you brain in you. You know what's going on inside you. How are you going to serve the Shem HaTavai? Mele tzaddik. I mean, if you're not careful, in a half a second you're a Russia. I tell you, you're a Russian, you're going to love the apes. I said, good. And if I says the Alter Rebbe, you have no brera, you have to be a Beinun. Little brera. In other words, that Hadikronis Tzadikim, the Libam Bereshus, their whole heart is in their control. And there's Rishoyim Rachmani Nitlan, what Haim Bereshus Libam. Their lay runs them completely. In other words, the Yetzer Hara is the complete balabas over there. In the middle, you've got these amazing people that they're not Libam Bereshus, they're not Mamish Tzadim, they're Chas V'Sholom, they're not Bereshus Libam. They're not in the reshus of their heart. They're like in the middle. Over their heart still says, oh yes, I want to get you. I haven't got you yet, but I'm after you. The whole of his life he's in the Zamat. As they state in Perikov Zayin, that a pain and he could be, he's born that way, and that's the way he's meant to be. How is he going to be built above? So comes again, the Alter Rebbe, and the Alter Rebbe says that that's why I've written the Sefer, to save all you Beinanim lach. All your little Beinanis that you're dragging around, and you still got all these, the Yetzer Hara still shicks around all the Maslach. And I'm giving you a way, and I'm showing you how you can fight that, and how you can be a whole shleimus at a kavanah of the world in a way that even the tzaddik doesn't have. In other words, there's that perfection that you can be a victorious soldier of the whole of your life. And that the Eibishter has a pleasure in you more than he does in some ways than even in the tzaddik. And it's a pili plus for namaz. So it only remains the shayla. What does he mean? B'derech harucha v'ketzara. What does he mean? It's a long way and a short way. So the truth is, I want to bring in a few other points. We'll have to make it short because it really is getting late, and I must say that my koifers are not really supporting me very well at this point. However, suffice it to say that it's brought down from the Elter Chassidim, and I heard it from Elter Chassidim. I remember when I first began learning Tanya, I heard from Rabbi Sai, and that's the way I held for quite a number of years. And a lot of people were convinced that was the beer, until the Rebbe came along. The Rebbe Melech Mashiach gave a famous sikha. I forget in which year it was, on Chayel. He gave a sikha about this whole thing. So the Chassidim used to say that derech arucha uktzara, the long and the short way, or a long and a short way, is like two sections of the Tanya. That the first section, all the way through to the end of Perek Yud Zayin, is about one way to do it, and from Perek Yud Ches to the end of Perek Chafei is another way you can do it. And the rest of the Tanya after that is like a beer on those two ways. There's a well-known. So the first way is derech harucha. That's a Beinun, he's got the ability, and he's got a tremendous gift. He's able to be misboinen in the greatness of the Eibishter, and he can pray how it should be, and he learns, and he prays, and he uses that power to be sheilat of the nefesh ha'amniyus, and so that there's nothing ever enters the levushim. He always remains completely in charge, even though he does still have some mud in the cesspool, as they say. But at least he fights it with tremendous, because he spends a tremendous amount of time either learning or davening or both, and particularly in davening, not so much. From Perek Yud Ches up to Perek Chafei, at the end, you're talking about somebody, the Alter Rebbe clearly doesn't have all that ability. He doesn't have the ability to be misboinen, and he doesn't know so much. He doesn't have a great deal of asoge pnimis atayra, and therefore he's, as it were, another type of Beinoni, and so the Alter Rebbe gives him a whole union of what's called Mesilas Nefesh, that he imagines that if Cholil or Chassi was faced with the union of Kiddush Hashem, how he'd give himself away. Every Aveda is like a union for Kiddush Hashem, and therefore he devotes himself and he gives himself away completely, with all, even though he doesn't have the ability to be misboinen so much in the greatness of the Eibishter, and he's like a shorter way. That's a much shorter way of being a Beinoni. So that's the long way and the short way. Harucha uktzara, which means it's two ways. Harucha uktzara, two ways of reaching the Aveda Shlema of Aveda. That's how the Chassidim taught it, and that's how many of them were. Comes along the Rebbe in this famous Sikha, and the Rebbe said, I'm sorry you guys, but that's not the beer. That is not the pshat, the divrei ha-Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach. No, the pshat is an under. And the Rebbe began with a famous Maisa, which he brought down in the Gemara Masechta Eruvin, Daf Nun Daled Nun Gimel Amud Beis. But the Gemara tells over there about Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania. Now, Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, the Gemara says about him that he was Makur of Lamalchus. He had a tremendous hashpah by the Romans and by others. He had protectia. He was sort of an amazing Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania. Apart from the fact that he's mentioned in Pirkei Avos as being an unbelievable great person, etc. So it's written that Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania said that all of my life nobody ever got the better of me. Nobody ever beat me in argument or in ideas. He said only 3 times in my life did I ever get corrected or beaten by somebody. And he mentions, like in headings, what these 3 cases were. And we can't go into all the 3 cases, but we'll go into the 3rd case. And he said I was once corrected or put in place by a small child, a little boy, a little kid, as they say in English. So he said, how did it happen? He said, I had to go in the way. I wanted to get to a certain city, and I came to a separation of the ways, which either way led to the city. And he said a little tinok was sitting in the splitting of the ways. Like at the precious drochim was sitting this little kid. Jesus' the expression. So he said to him, Yeled, he said, tell me, which is the best way to go to the city. So the Yeled said to him, he said, Rebbe, he said, Zeh derech kitzora v'arucha. And he said, Zeh derech arucha v'kitzora. So he didn't be, he thought he was a child. So he heard the word kitzora. He said, oh, that's the shortest way. But he said that way is the short way. So he didn't pay attention to the other part of it, and he went the short way. So he gets all the way, and he sees the city coming up. All of a sudden, he's sort of running all these fences around, all these orchards, and these huge impenetrable fences. And he can see the city. He can see the walls of the city and everything, but he can't get in there because all these fences and everything are preventing you going through. All you can do is come and admire the orchards and the field, but you can't actually get across them into the city. So he comes back. So the only way he could have got to the city was if he'd make a huge hakofa all the way to the city and come in from some other direction altogether. So he goes back. And he says to this little kid, he says, listen here, man. He said, you've got to realize some derech eretz. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't tell people wrongly. He said, what did I tell you wrong? He said, you said there was the short way. He said, oh yes, but you didn't listen to me. He said, I said it was the short way that was really a long way. And I said, this other way is a long way, but it's really the short way. So he said, oh. He said, no tzchani, no tzchani. He said, he beat me. He's put me in my place. So he went round that way, and it was took a bit longer, but it led straight into the city. He went straight into the city. It was longer, but he went straight in. So the Rebbe said, we see from that the satya inen, it's a derech arucha, enochanami, but it's ktsora, it brings you directly to where you want to go. And then we see from that the musik of ktsora doesn't just mean, a short way in the sense that, I save all possible efforts and I save effort. Well, the short way means that you get where you're really supposed to go in the best and maslachadika way possible. It might be a little bit longer, but you get there and you get there properly and you get there good. The other way you get there, but you don't really get there. You get there, but you can't really get in. So the Rebbe said, that's what the Alter Rebbe means, b'derech harucha uktzara. The Alter Rebbe means that the whole of Tanya and the whole of Shittas Chabad, not just part of Tanya and another part, but every prat in Tanya is together in one Matthias. It's a rucha uktzara. It's long and it's short, which means that every step you take on that way, which is the derech arucha kitzara, you're going on a way which is arucha v'ke. So it doesn't matter what your particular point on that derech may be, but the whole derech itself. And so therefore the Rebbe said that from that we understand that with that the Alter Rebbe put down the fundament for the whole of Lubavitch and Chabad. Yeah, from that moment until Sof Kol HaDoros, until Tchias HaMesim Achri Mizeh, who knows what. That the Alter Rebbe said that the only way is a derech arucha uktzor. It's going to be long and it's going to take effort. In other words, anything connected with Lubavitch has to be a long way. You have to put in effort, and you got to understand what other people don't worry about. They don't go into all these inyonim. They don't go into all this business about, pnim yisach or something. Let's leave all that for someone. Mashiach had come with Yamot Baden wegen these inyonim. Says the Alter Rebbe, no, you got to know those things. You talk about those inyonim because that's what the Baal Shem Tov revealed. And if you do that, then that is the long way, but it's the short way that brings you into the city. That brings you really in the way that you go into the city, Batzlacha. And the father ganze Shitte is derech arucha v'ke ketzoreh. And does it the pshat ki korev elecha? Korev means it's the short way. That's the ultimate way to reach what you're really supposed to reach. And mamela, that is the pshat bilvavcha. If you do it that way, then you have avava yira, albeit not avava yira of the tzaddikim. Einachanami won't be avava of the tzaddikim. No uja, if there's avava, will bring la'asay say, befichel bilvavcha la'asay. So it'll bring you to do the ava, will cock you in such a way that you always do it and you always be full of flame in doing it. And that's what he says in Perek Dalet the Alter Rebbe Mekayim on be'emes, he who keeps the mitzvahs be'emes, hu ha'oyev Hashem Hashem v'chofetz l'dov k'boi be'emes. This is the Lashon in Perek Dalet. If remember, we see that when you have a emes ava, then you Mekayim on be'emes. You keep the mitzvahs with the emes. To be explained what do you mean by the Lashon Mekayim on, but I don't see any kind of lahari b'zeh shah. That's the beer what the Alter Rebbe took on. With that he was mashlim the whole beer. It began with Rashi. That we're talking about the whole of Yiddishkeit. And we got the Baal Shem Tov. Now we got a new type of Torah. We have a new great people to teach us and to understand. But Afu Pikein, they say you can't just rely on her. It's got to be nashmieno v'naseno. We got to do it ourselves. Everybody's got to serve the Eibishter b'shleimus nishmosei. You can't just rely on somebody else. Even though they have somebody else is a tremendous example to you, and he teaches you everything. Nashmieno avu naseno. It's got to come into play. My means befichel bilvavcha le'asei. So wrongly remains the simple kasha on the part of the intelligent reader. Why is it written kilo back to front and not back to front either? It's just written loyal fiaseda. It's written befichel bilvavcha la'asei. Say it should have been written bilvavcha befichel la'asei. Say bilvavcha is machshava and ava v'yira. Beficha is speech and la'asei is dibba. It's in the middle, it's not back to front. It's not kilo. It's loyal fiaseda. So I'm going to do a tremendously cruel thing. I'm going to say that you guys have to sort that one out. You guys are going to have to sort that one out yourselves. Why is it written? So I already said I can't do that because some of the guys are saying he's believing us. We'll never be able to sleep our usual Thursday night shlov. How much was our Shabbos night shlov we won't be able to get. So just very, very briefly, you have to have the Eden from Beficha as a beginning to everything, particularly the Beinoni. Because in Perek Hey, right near the end, the Alter Rebbe says that when you speak out the Torah, particularly when you speak out Beklal, anything, you call on a very high makif in the nefesh, well, that gives the ability to be muksher in Yonei Lakus and Afilu, the Eden from Ava Yira. In other words, that the power of speech, when we call the human species, then we call him the Madaber. Here we say, what do you call daimam, and then we say vegetables, vegetable kingdom, tzomeach, chai, the animal kingdom, and then we say medaber. In other words, we don't call the man maskil. We should call him he who has seichel. We should call him, melech al kol ha'chayis or melech al kol ha'briyo or something. We call him dafke medaber. Because the highest ability that a mensch has is the power of speech, even higher than seichel. In other words, that when you use speech, you open up koiches in your neshama that are amazingly high, and therefore if you're devoted to divrei Torah b'dibur, and you're very careful about your dibur, and you give away your whole dibur to the inyan from limud Torah, then that wakes up the shi'arim in the soul that you should be able to have avaveh. It's become a mekaymes b'chassidus. Remember, that's the greatness of the inyan b'ficha davke. Therefore, for the Beinonim, and since it's Sefer Shel Beinonim, they have to have b'ficha in order that they should be able to come to bilvavcha. Eino chanami, the ik is bilvavcha, but you can have the inyan from b'ficha prior to that. And therefore, we see it as a main thing by Matan Torah. It's brought down. The Rebbeim bring it sometimes in reference to certain of the great Rushim and Chag HaShavuot. It's brought down that when the Eibusha gave the Torah, all the Yidden repeated the Aseres HaDibros back. They all said B'dibur, each thing that the Eibusha said, they all said back B'dibur. And so they asked the Shah, why did they have to give it back B'dibur? Why did they have to repeat it all over? And the same thing with the word Mishnah. The word Mishnah means to repeat over. Baal Peh means that it all has to be said over the whole time in the mouth. And so it's brought down that that's stuck in the whole kavanah, that the Eibush started off the whole Matan Torah, and he said the whole way you guys are going to be makusha into Torah, and eventually it's going to become a kinyon, how do you call it, a possession in your soul, in such a way that you come to the emesh shleimus, both of Av of a year and afterwards the inyan from Maisa. You have to have dibur. You got to have first of all the inyan of dibur, and then we see the first thing you do with a child. You want to teach him, so you teach him to say a posik. Yeah, Moshe, the first thing he has to do is bring up a dibur. Oh, you already brought out a dibur. Then there's hope, and there's a lot of good hope that he will go to be an elder Yid, and a freiliche Yid, and a Yid will be makabel pnei Mashiach Tzidkeinu mamish because of mamish. That's one of the inyonim on Shabbos Mavokim, saying to him, he just sit for a whole, I don't know how many hours, and you just say to him, the whole time in Soktzach, to say over. But that inyan for Dibur is a tremendous opening for the Avodah of the whole month. Today we're going into Tishrei, so the Eibush will give us all immediately a Ksiv and Tzimah, and should be a Shana Tov Masukah, together with Mashiach Tzidkeinu, together with the Rebbe Mamish, take of Miyad Mamish, and Bepoil Mamish. It should be a good Shabbos, and we all say to him, Yislavus, and all the good Sachen. And Milchim will go with a tremendous friend to Yerushalayim, the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi.
Ja, de ene Rabbeinu Melech Mashiach Leil Umvad.
Ja, de ene Rabbeinu Melech Mashiach Leil Umvad.
Ja, de ene Rabbeinu Melech Mashiach Leil Umvad.
Ja, de ene Rabbeinu